Welcome to the Pink Lady Posse podcast, where women over 50 take a fresh look at living, toss out tired stereotypes, and say a big heck yes to what's next. I'm your host, Sandy Parker, and around here, we challenge limitations, rewrite the story on aging, and reclaim our power, pleasure, and purpose. Why? Our next years are not about a decline. They are our big reveal. Hi, everybody. It is Sandy Parker Martinez with the Pink Lady Posse podcast, and I'm here with Donna Price. And I want her to tell you about herself in terms of her work right now, but I'm going to bring us back to having kids at 40. So Donna, tell us a little bit about what you do now and where you live in the world and that sort of thing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the colors were going to be red and pink, so
That's okay. It worked out great.
Yeah. I live in Vermont now. We just moved here in May, bought a big old Victorian that needed to be kind of gutted and down to the bones. So we're in the process of getting everything in order. And I work predominantly with women business owners, small businesses that are trying to make a difference in the world. And I believe every woman business is changing the world, just because when women succeed, families succeed, communities succeed, it just has a ripple effect out into the world. And I love being part of that journey. So we help people look at their vision, their strategy, their marketing strategy, how to operationalize their business, and then make sure that their products and services are meeting the needs of their customers.
Well, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
You know, I had both my knees replaced. I was a widow and remarried or married, and I moved to Bowie, Texas, small town, and I had both my knees replaced and both my hips replaced. And I had a time period of healing set aside, and then I got better faster.
Wow.
So I thought, okay, now I got to do something. So I believe every woman needs a posse.
Yes, I believe that too.
Because I was out there by myself, feeling good, and I'm thinking, okay, what's my mission in the world? My mission in the world is that every woman over the age of 50 has a posse that cares about them, that knows them, that stays in communication. And I got that notion because when my husband passed away, my hospice group stayed together. And we've been together every Monday morning at 9 a.m. for 6 years.
Wow, that's wonderful.
If I didn't show up, they be coming. They be coming to look for me. So I thought, it's what makes me think of that is I didn't have a strategy. I didn't have a system. I was all by myself with a computer, and I thought, let's do a Facebook group. Then I did some branding, and then I did some marketing. And often I've thought, wouldn't it be nice to have started with a strategy and then an implementation plan and then some scaling, that sort of things. How do you find most of the women? I would have loved to have found you then and still could use your services. How do you find the women that you work with, and how do they come to know of you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I find, well, here in Vermont, I'm in a small city, but prior to that in New Jersey, we literally lived in a cornfield. So most of the people that I connected with were online, but I also find women through networking groups, online or in person. And I find that that's a great way to meet people, initiate conversations, and then continue those conversations, even if we're not going to go into do business with each other. Right. It just builds your network of people that that you can reach out to if you need something, or you meet somebody that needs what they have or whatever. So Facebook, LinkedIn, and I'm on Instagram, but I find most of the people that I connect with are on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and then through groups and networking through those two platforms.
Well, I heard you the other day say something that made me think, I want one of those. And it was a 15-minute or a short meet you, solve a problem, have a conversation without taking on the whole gorilla.
Yeah. That's a program I call Make It Happen Laser Coaching. And I like it because it is an opportunity for people to have one-on-one coaching, which is inaccessible to some people. It's fast, 15-minute calls. So it's not getting on the phone for 60 minutes and it's focused on what you're trying to accomplish. So we're focusing on your goal or your strategy, what the next step is, and then you leave that call with an action plan. As soon as you complete the action plan, you can schedule your next call. And of course, if you run into an obstacle where you're like not able to get through that action plan, which is a short, like not a massive strategic plan, you can always reach out and we strategize on that, like what's in the way, what's stopping you from taking that action that you agreed to. But it's fast focused and it helps build momentum, and it helps having someone in your corner that's helping to hold you accountable. So you said you were going to do this, Sandy. What's going on? I haven't heard from you. And I believe when you talk about your goals and you tell somebody you're going to do something, just that simple act of telling someone increases the likelihood that you're going to do it. So, for example, I biked across the country. It was a wild idea. I'm going to bike across the country. I had actually just started riding my bike again and joined a bike club and started telling people I'm going to bike across the country. Well, that simple statement to a group of people started that motion of actually happening. They started saying, well, you better be on the ride on Saturday. You better learn how to ride, longer than 15 miles. And so I had this group that started training me. They started also telling me, did you know about this bike leader training program you could go to? And connecting me with other resources. So the laser coaching, because you're coming on a call and saying, I'm going to do this, just that act helps you do it faster.
Absolutely. And, one of the things you said that I love, I have a book and a theory called, the book came first, What's in the Way is the Way. I find that what's stopping me is what needs work on.
Yes.
Right? Like I'll say, I'm going to do my marketing plan, I'm going to do videos. But when I'm not doing the videos, what's in the way is where to focus.
Right.
Because it's easy to sort of get slipped up on your own intentions. You go, I am going to do it. And procrastination is a great avoider.
Yes.
And so I love what you said, that speaking it to begin with as power, adding accountability as power, and
Yep.
then having someone in your corner, not only someone, but someone educated and seasoned in solutions, right? So tell me what you did as a professional and what problem solving skills you accumulated before you took off on your midlife crisis. Tell me about that, because I can't wait to hear.
Yeah. So my career, my job was working with people with disabilities. And I started doing that when I was 14 as a personal care aide. And then ended up going to school for psychology, special education, and working in group homes with people with developmental disabilities, and got promoted to a coordinator where I was managing 30 different sites, some of them very small with a couple of people living in them, some of them larger with more people. And when you're, so some of the skills that you learn in special education and in teaching people with disabilities is that you break tasks down, and we would call it a task analysis. And my first position was working with some very disabled children, and we could break down toothbrushing into like 35 steps.
Oh my gosh.
And, and you're trying to teach people step by step how to, and we all think, brushing your teeth is easy. And the reality is we all do it a little bit differently. And some of us hold a toothbrush with our right hand. We put the toothpaste on and run it underwater, or we run it underwater and then put the, like we all have different sequences that we do things in. And so that task analysis helped us to see how somebody was doing it and then help them complete the task so that they were becoming more and more independent. And we tracked all those goals. So when we were teaching somebody, we had to mark how they did on each step of that task analysis and that goal. One of the other things that happened kind of as that career evolved was, the field changed and people had circles of support. And so you were
Now you're
bringing.
getting in my area. I love those circles of support.
Yeah. And, so we create these plans with kind of all the people in an individual's life, so it could be their parents, it could be their employer, it could be a neighbor, a community member. And so you'd have this planning meeting with all these people there to support this person in their life. And one of the things I thought was, gosh, I wish I had like a circle of support like that coming and helping me figure out, my life. And that's really kind of what coaching is doing for people is, as if you do group coaching, you have this, or your posse possibly, you have this circle of support now around you, helping you brainstorm solutions to the problems you're facing. Business is not an easy thing. It doesn't just, you don't just put your shingle out and all of a sudden you're in business and it's successful and you're making a lot of money. It is not easy.
It's not easy.
But after, so my first midlife crisis, I changed my career and went into outdoor education, outdoor recreation, got another master's degree in recreation management and learned how to climb trees and facilitate high ropes courses and team building and leadership development. And then when we had children, I decided that I needed more flexibility in my time and I needed to be more present in my kids' lives and not have my time, not be working 10, 12, 14-hour days.
Yeah, and we talked about, I was 40 when Taylor was born. You were in your 40s and you adopted 2 young children.
Yep.
How beautiful is that? I mean, it's amazing. And then you wanted your own time and you wanted to manage your own time. So the other thing I would just want to say about the task planning that you did, you were also running a nonprofit.
Yes.
Right? I mean, we're talking some serious management skills with the overview of the organization, how it functions, how it raises money. So all of that comes into the wisdom that you have to offer other people.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely managing lots of people in different teams. And one of the things that I find really interesting in switching into my own business is how some of those skills don't just automatically transfer over now that you're in your own business. So
now you have yourself to manage on top of that.
Right. You have yourself to manage. Delegation, something I was really good at. Like I delegated people well. I had team members that could take my job over. I mean, I took a 6-month leave of absence and I had people that could step right into that. And they did great. And that was great. But I find in my own business, delegating is harder because it's closer to us, right? And so like figuring out like how to empower people to do parts of our business, because we don't want to do all of it. Like we all have all these hats we're wearing, and some of them we should give away or empower other people to take over. But it's harder, I find, for entrepreneurs to do some of that delegation and give up I'm the only one that can do this right mentality.
The other thing I'm seeing is I'm in the marketing world with a lot of women in a network, and we all want a VA, right? But you can't assign a virtual assistant something you don't thoroughly know and you haven't already systematized.
Right.
Because they'll just take off and it sounds like your brain functions in a way that you can systematize things well. I am like a free flyer. Let's try that. That makes it hard.
What we know is that when we create those systems or operational procedures, we can teach people then how to do them, is what you're saying.
Uh-huh.
And they can come in and do it the way you want it done in your business. Because we don't all do things the same way. I mean, some things like bookkeeping is sort of bookkeeping, but there are probably little nuances to when we do it and how we upload our receipts or whatever that are different from business to business.
Oh, sister, I have some nuances. No one does accounting like me. But what I do like is the idea, and that's why we just started Think Pink. So back when I started Pink Lady Posse, it was a Facebook community. You could join and we would share resources. But I find that there's not enough engagement if left to your own initiative, right? Because you can be a member of anything and do nothing with it.
Right.
Right. So I thought if we create an inner circle where you're known and appreciated and we share resources, then you have that camaraderie and the multiplication of resources and brainstorming and think tanking and all that. Now, Think Pink is not about business, but a lot of women in it are in business. But we also have one lady whose husband just passed away and she's not leaving the house yet. We have another lady that is, her business has failed and through a divorce situation that's a mess. And really having emotional support is really critical, even if it's not that intimate. But even if you're a fly on the wall with a lot of support and everybody cares, you're sort of like flying with a net under you.
Yeah.
So that means a lot to me. I mean, I couldn't do what I'm doing without it because this morning, even I said, okay, we're working on Think Pink and I'm going to change a few things. And even a simple thing like, when are we going to meet weekly? There's not a consensus.
Yeah.
And people said, pick what works for you and let the people that it works for come along. But if you try to please too many people, then it's just not going to work. But we had a great result for our first time. We have like almost 20 participants for the first month. So now it's a matter of putting things in place that make it reliable and responsible and accountable so people know what they can depend on.
That's
So
cool. So what is Think Pink?
it is just a step forward in an inner circle. It's a private Facebook community. And you said you watched the TED Talk,
Yeah.
which thank you for that.
Yeah, it's
It was
great.
a huge thrill. And my family all came to be there for me. And so it
Oh,
was almost
nice.
like a wedding, it was like an event. It was really beautiful. But what I've noticed for myself, no matter what I'm trying to do, I have to pause to get some clarity without clarity, there's not a start. Then I have to actually identify, okay, what is to be done or what is it I want to do and what are the steps? And then in nudge, I have to nudge myself to take a step. Sometimes I'm like, I don't really want to do it. So I have to nudge myself. And then PINK is keep it alive. Once I
Nice.
start something, that doesn't have a thing to do with keeping it alive.
Right.
So no matter what I'm trying to do, maybe I'm just trying to do a short event, I still need those steps. Or the woman who's trying to figure out how to live after her husband is not with her, she has to do the same steps. So really it's just an agreement that we are trying to do something and being together doing it makes us stronger. So it's just an inner circle of Pink Lady Posse. I want to know, as you see women in these networking groups, are you seeing something that's a trend in how they network or how they act or like, because you've got a really great pair of eyes, you've got really good perspective. What are you seeing out there in the networking world?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of women in business or out there networking, doing a lot of really cool things compared to, like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Like women are out here. And I see each networking group has a little bit different flavor to it. And like you and I have met through a networking group. Mm-hmm. Or a group of women. And I was in a networking group that partners with a domestic violence shelter. And that group of women comes together to network for business, but also to raise money for the shelter. And they kind of have this dual, and that was a really powerful way to connect with people that wasn't 100% business, but had this other angle to it. So I just see women showing up more and more.
You know, I want to affirm you in something, and that is I found you interesting, although you're not really, you don't seem to be an extrovert, right? You might be, but you were just being patient and polite and everything. And then it came time for you to say what you did. And because you said, I do this 15-minute laser focus call, in my mind, I thought, I like that. I'm gonna do that. But if you would have said, I help women in business put a strategy together and then make decisions and then and then I would have just gone, you and 4 million others.
Yes.
So you gave me a connection point that seemed reasonable and doable. And I want that now. I want to say, I'm Sandy with Think Pink or Sandy with Pink Posse, Pink Lady Posse, and I help women come alive again.
Yeah, love it.
Right? Like, that's really what I'm about. But if I say, oh, I have a Facebook group and a podcast and a kiss on the cheek and a, who cares? It's too much.
Well, I think that's part of the value of having conversations after those meetings, like we're having here, like that those words resonated with you because we try different words. We don't always know what's resonating. And sometimes we feel like, nothing's resonating with people, but then we're not having the conversations to hear like, well, what did interest you?
Right.
What did pique your interest?
So I want to ask you, because I have a notion, you have a system, and I have a notion I probably don't. But in follow up with when you're on a networking group and other than people say, hey, be on my podcast, do you have a way to follow up that is a strategy that somebody could learn from?
That's a great question because I have not been doing that as well as I would like to be doing that. So that is definitely something I've been working on. But having these conversations, like going, on Zoom, if you're on Zoom, you can download that chat and going through that chat and actually scheduling the meetings with people to talk to them. And then having a system where you're tracking to a certain extent, like who you met with. Because I don't know about you, but I don't remember like 2 weeks ago. Like I know I met with a couple people, but who was that? And so having something other than like I love old composition books.
I do too.
And now they're so fancy. Like, like this one is, got colors and
stars and whistles and bells.
Yeah. But that's not a good system for tracking because, it gets lost back in the pages and, but having a system online, a CRM or some way that you're keeping track of and then reminding yourself of who you talk to and what you might want to follow up with them on later on and not just a generic follow-up. And I love email marketing, and autoresponders and all that kind of stuff. But when you've had a personal conversation, it needs to be more personal follow-up.
You know what? This sounds like wah, 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 but I actually got hurt by an automation system. And so for those of you who are out there, you marketers, you listen, because there was this lady teaching a class and man, I wanted to learn it. And I bought it, I don't know, $79 or something. And then the emails come and it's a day until, and I drove from Dallas back to my house to be there right when it started, but I was about 5 minutes late. And I went to the automation link and it said the class has already started. Watch for the replay. And I thought to myself, let's not lose the people in this automation.
Right.
Like, I wish there would have been a person that said, "Oh, I'm glad you can make it. Here's the link," or "I'm watching the." So this is for me also. Just because I have a Facebook group, somebody could post something in that Facebook group and I don't see it till tomorrow.
Yep.
But I love it when people respond to each other, because being in community doesn't rely just on me,
Right.
but you have people together in community watching out for each other. But the other thing I will say is there's a online networking LinkedIn affiliated thing called My Most Trusted. And we were talking the other day about, as AI grows, trust is really going to be the barometer for who you spend time with and who you don't, because automated systems are flying my way. But
Yeah.
now that I know you, we're in another level of world together.
Yep. Definitely.
And everybody was saying on this networking call, "Oh, you got to meet this guy named Sloan." I'm like, "Okay, I'll meet him." So we set up this thing, and I honestly had no idea why I was meeting him, except everybody said, "Oh, you got to meet him." So we met, and it was such a great call. I noticed he showed up on my calendar again today. So he's been thinking about it. But had we not actually had that conversation, and
Yep.
sometimes the perfectionist in us wants to be fully prepared or fully know or have a reason. But I'm of the opinion every person I come in contact with is a treasure trove of life. Yeah, if I can just say, I now know my
Yeah.
life is richer. So we
Yeah.
have to take the effort to make, like you said, make those conversations happen.
Yeah, I love that. I think perfection, I was just talking about this earlier with someone, like it can really get in the way.
It can. I used to teach creativity classes. It was a small town, so the only people taking creativity classes are a bank or a chamber of commerce or something.
Yeah.
And I would start out and I would put all these color crayons on the table. And I'd say, pick your favorite color. And I cannot tell you how hard that was for people to just grab one.
Yeah.
Like, well, I do like green, and I'm like, you live that way, it's going to be hard. But really, perfectionism is not my big handicap. My handicap is I'm going to go and figure it out.
That's great.
But I see people who suffer so much. What have you seen in working with women about how that derails them or causes them harm?
I see that, well, like this conversation, right? We scheduled a meeting and you said, "Hey, let's talk and then let's do a podcast." And I had a podcast for a long time. I don't have one right now, but I had asked somebody at a networking meeting, "Oh, you should come on my podcast." And she kept like, "No, I can't do it yet. I need to prepare. I need to prepare." Like she never came on because she needed to prepare. And it's like, well, it's just a conversation. Like you can do it. We're having a conversation right now. You can come on the podcast. So I see it as at times like you want that perfection, which like is it even achievable? Anyway, that's a
Right.
whole other thing. But it stopped this opportunity from happening. And I guess another thing it makes me think of is saying yes, right? And people that just aren't willing to say yes, they're in no, not yet. And my daughter, when she was in high school, had an opportunity to go to get a scholarship at a camp. There was a day camp just for a week. And she said yes to it. And it was uncomfortable. It was unfamiliar. At first, she didn't like it at all. And she stuck with it and it changed her life.
Mm.
And she invited a friend to go who said no. And it was kind of like, well, what would have happened? Like, how would your life be different if you had said yes instead of no? And we ended up, she's at that time was like 15. We ended up talking about that. Like, what do we say no to that would have been if we had said yes? Like how our life would be different because we said yes to it instead of no.
I
And
love that. And this is going to be in air in January. So I
awesome.
love that because, okay, everybody, here we go. It's a new year. What can we say yes to? What a powerful focal point to say, all right, what can I say yes to? Have you ever heard of the book, The Surrender Experience?
No.
It's written by the same guy that wrote The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer.
Okay.
And a woman that I really respected owned a business and she sold it for a gazillion million dollars. And I said, okay, will you be my coach? And she said, I'll be your coach if you read this book. And I
Okay.
said, okay, what? And I will do a bad job at summarizing it because I haven't read it for like 4 years, but it was something like, what if I made choices not based on my preference, but what came by? Like if it came by, maybe there's something in it for me. And if I say, no, that doesn't quite suit me this way and that, if I don't let my preference dictate my choices, how would my life be different? And if anything, it let me just watch my preference fly by. So somebody will say, do you want to do this? I go, not really. But I go, oh, that was my preference. Now, if I give it a look beyond my preference, I get an extra space of opportunity to make a decision that
Yeah.
my preference doesn't just run my life. And most of our preferences come from what we've already kind of done.
Yeah. Keeping us safe.
So that's that book. And it was helpful to me because I can now see them fly by. I
Wow.
still go with them sometimes, and it's a little more spiritual than that. But I think one of his stories was he had land, and somebody wanted to put a yoga retreat on his land, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want these people on my land," and But he ended up saying yes, and it built a whole tribe of people whose lives are changed. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like what you said, making the most of the opportunity sometimes by saying yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes me think of like we do a lot of biking and bike trails. And there was, every time a bike trail gets put in, the people along the trail object to the trail
Uh,
coming. They're going to come on my property and there's all these reasons not to do it. But I just read an article where a gentleman that lived right next to the trail went to the town meeting and talked about the impact on his life from having the trail there and the people
wow.
that he was meeting and it was just all a positive experience and none of the you know your negative things, and it's that same kind of like your preference maybe, but what would happen if
Yeah.
you
All
don't know?
right. So, Miss Donna Price, I'm going to give you the chance to close us out with we serve women. I serve women 50 plus. You serve women in business. Here's the new year. If you were just going to encourage them in one way, maybe we've already said it, maybe we haven't, but just sort of summarize how you encourage women to live in this new year.
Wow, all right, thanks. Well, I always start with the vision and getting clear on what that vision is for the new year, and then moving into action because vision does not happen without action, and breaking those actions down into small doable steps so it's not this big overwhelming like I can't do it, because you can do it step by step, and small steps move it forward.
Well, I like the combination of us because what I'll say is I'm an action babe. If you need to get in action, saddle up with me because I love being unreasonable, unapologetic, trying it. And I love what Seth Godin says. He said, being creative is trying something that might not happen. If it's going to happen, it's management.
Yep.
And I'm going to say life is like that. Here's a year, if we wait to make sure we know it's going to work, we're going to miss out on some really great things.
Yeah. It's a
And
year to say yes.
say yes.
Let's say yes.
Donna, you said yes to this podcast.
I did, and I've had fun.
And I did too. I want to thank you for being here. It's so good to know you, and I'll have your contact information in the show notes. So if people want one of those fast, what do you call it?
Laser coaching.
Laser coaching.
Laser coaching.
Then they'll know how to reach you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, so good to see you. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Thanks for tuning in to Pink Lady Posse Podcast, where women go from what now to what's next. Come join us at pinkladyposse.com, where we share community, resources, and tools to support your next beautiful chapter. With love, light, and a little lipstick. See you next time.